Hey, bestie. Hey, guys. You got two bestie homeschooling mamas coming at you. You've got Gail over here and
Christina.
How you doing? Today, we are going to be picking homeschool curriculum. That's what today's episode is about. Picking the right curriculum for your family can be overwhelming. Yes. But we've got a few tips and tricks to make it a little bit easier, a little bit less overwhelming, and a little bit so you don't throw everything out the window. So let's get into it.
Okay, guys. The first thing I want you to do is I want you to picture what your homeschool is going to look like. What do you want your homeschool to look like? Does it look fun? Does it look like a schoolroom? What does it look like? Okay, now take that picture and throw it out the window.
Truth.
Literally. And she just said, we don't want you to throw things out the window. Throw it out the window. Okay? I know that sounds crazy, but a lot of people come into homeschooling thinking that their homeschool has to look a certain way. And we are here to tell you that it doesn't. It does not need to look like a schoolroom inside your home. Okay? We are teaching our kids in everything that we do all day long. They are learning in everything that they do all day long. It does not have to be posters all over the house, books all over the house, sitting down at the table for 8 hours a day. That is not what homeschool looks like.
No.
In most cases.
No.
It is not. When you are thinking about the curriculum that you want to use, keep that in mind. Because you don't want to sit at the table for 8 hours a day.
No.
It's not necessary.
That is not the point of homeschool, y'all.
It is not the point. It won't be enjoyable for you. It won't be enjoyable for your kids. It's
not freeing. That is the point of homeschool. Homeschool is supposed to be freeing, and the curriculum is supposed to be the same way.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be able to go after your kids' passions.
Absolutely.
In addition to the main parts that they're supposed to learn.
Absolutely.
Reading, writing, all the shenanigans.
So don't try to recreate school in your home, and don't plan on spending 8 hours a day doing school.
And that's really hard for those of us who went to public school.
It is.
To wrap our brains around.
It is. And it is really hard for those of us who taught or worked in a school environment, because it's just ingrained in who you are and what you did for so long. So best advice I can give any new homeschooler, take that picture and throw that out the window. Your space does not have to look or feel like a schoolroom.
What does your space look like?
My living room.
You guys sit around like a dining room table in your living room, right?
We have a table in the living room that is the quote unquote school table that we almost never use.
Because usually just sit on the couches and stuff, right?
We sit on the couch. We sit on the floor. We go to the park. We do stuff in the car on the way to events. We almost never sit at the table to do our work. We're always spread out throughout the house. Now, that being said, we do have a giant whiteboard in our living room. So that does have a little bit of a schoolroom feel to it. But
you use that for a lot of things. It's not just for school.
It is not just for school. The kids draw on it all the time for fun. We do school on it. We use that. But again, we're not sitting at the table for 8 hours a day.
Well, your entire living room looks at that whiteboard though, too. So like you could be sitting on the couch and looking at the whiteboard too.
Yep.
So it's not like you have to be sitting at the school table to see it. So it is a big whiteboard. And I know you guys do planning for your, nonprofits and stuff there too. And all of those things.
It is well used.
It is well used and loved for all of the things.
I love the whiteboard. It is actually a schoolroom whiteboard that our neighbor had acquired while renovating a school. And so we were very excited.
It's very large. It is good size.
We love it. We love it. But that is the only thing in our house that looks like a schoolroom. Other than that, it's just our living room with
Right.
Bookshelves and couches and,
Right.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah. Our homeschool is in a drawer.
In a drawer.
In my office.
Yeah.
And we'll sit here at the table or we'll sit in my office and do it. But like everything that he uses to homeschool is in a drawer.
Mm-hmm.
And we just pull the drawer out and carry it wherever we're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
We have, usually we have what I call our car schooling notebook, where when we're going to be out because we're going to whatever events and we're going to be gone for a while, they bring their car schooling book. And that's like review pages or extra practice on things. And they do work in there while we are running errands or whatever may be on the schedule that day.
There you go.
Tip number 2, your kids are all different. So this is especially important for those of us that have more than 1 or 2 kids. I know when I had my number 3, I thought he was going to be just like number 1 or just like number 2, because number 1 and number 2 are completely different, like opposite ends on everything. So when my sweet number 3 came, I thought, well, is he going to be like number 1 or is he going to be like number 2? Nope, he is completely different as well. And so were the subsequent children. They're all different. When you are picking curriculum, one of the things that always drew me to curriculum as a mom of many was the curriculums that I thought I could use all down the line. And as the years go by, I realize that isn't always the case. I may love the curriculum. It may have worked great with number 1 or number 2 or number 3, but that does not mean it's going to work great for
4 and 5.
4 and 5 or anywhere in that realm. So It is nice when you find those curriculums that can work for multiple children, and sometimes they do, but just know that it may not work for everybody. So keep that in the back of your head when you are picking curriculum.
And be okay with it.
And be okay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Don't rack your brain. Don't think you've done something wrong. It's okay.
Yep. If you have young ones, especially if you have young ones, let them play. Don't, we talked about not spending 8 hours a day on school. They learn so much when they are playing.
Right.
So many things. So let them play. Focus on what they can learn through that play rather than a specific curriculum schedule that they have to keep.
Yeah. I love like the Montessori style play and learn.
Do you want to share with them a little bit?
Sure.
What that is?
So Montessori style schooling is like a daycare style that you can take your kid to, like when they're small, if you're working or whatever. But they use a lot of manipulative squares or blocks or numbers or a lot of manipulative moving parts.
A lot of sensory.
It's a lot of sensory boxes and a lot of sensory moving things, a lot of tactile options for the kids. And so I love that with my kiddo. I got a lot of those for him when he was small. I got a lot of them for him because he was in OT and we were working on finger grasping, and, we had chopsticks that he could use to grasp the balls to make the, little, it looks like a Chinese checkers board, but it's not. And he had to make designs with the thing underneath the board. He's learning shapes and colors, absolutely, but he's also doing fine motor skills and gross motor skills. And he needed that and crossing midline, like he didn't do all of those things, so it took a lot to get him to learn how to cross his midline, and getting him to take his right hand and put it over his body near his left hand was a big deal for him. So getting him these Montessori style things, he thought he was playing. Ha 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 ha.
Playing and
he's
learning.
Playing and learning, but he doesn't know these things. And so I learned a lot about them actually, even this year at convention. He can still do so much with them, even though he's going into the first grade this year. And there's still so much that he can do with them. We're not quite reading yet, which is fine, but he's still, learning how to write within a certain range because he's got big movements. He's still not, got control of all of his functions with the writing and stuff. The Montessori tools are really big with that, where you take a tray and you put quinoa in it. And because quinoa is really easy to vacuum up, and you take 2 fingers and you can draw the letters inside the quinoa. And that helps with finger grasp with the pencil, because then all you have to do is add your thumb. And I'm like, I never thought about that. So if you draw with the 2 fingers, your pointer finger and your middle finger, then all you have to do is add your thumb when you're doing pencil grasp. Yes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so fabulous. So if you have a kid who is sensory or has fine motor skills or gross motor skills, Montessori, tactile style learning things, especially for younger elementary, are super awesome.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I also want you to file this away as an important lesson from Christina. Be willing to try something new if what you got isn't working. My very first year, not my first year homeschooling, because, I've been homeschooling the whole time. But when our oldest started school and we were doing, I think it was first grade, I got this amazing reading curriculum because I had a reluctant reader. This curriculum had all the right reviews, and I looked at it and it just made me happy because it was amazing. It was incredible. And I could see the value and all the amazing things in this curriculum. It was easy for me to teach. She hated it.
Oh no.
She hated it. We fought through reading that entire year. Fought through it because it wasn't exciting for her. It wasn't fun for her. It wasn't something that she enjoyed doing. And this curriculum just made it worse. It just wasn't. And I should have tossed it right at the beginning and said, you know what? This is not working. Just because I love it doesn't mean it works for her. And I didn't.
Through the whole year.
We suffered through the whole year because part of it was, I didn't want to, it was a fancy, expensive curriculum and I didn't want to waste that money. I could have saved it for another kid to see if they liked it. I could have gifted it to somebody. I could have given it to the Compassion Use curriculum sale. There are so many things I could have done and I didn't. So learn from me. If something isn't working, try something new. There are so many options out there. You will find something that works for both you and your student. So, learn from me. Don't hang on to it if it's not working. It is okay to try something new. Okay, so now we are ready to choose our curriculum. Now that you've kind of wrapped your mind around what your school day will look like, let's start choosing our curriculum. How do we do that? First, you need to figure out what kind of student or students you have. We talked a little bit about the being hands-on and the manipulative. So is your student hands-on? Are they a visual learner? Are they easily distracted? Do they do well with structure? What type of student do you have? So you want to kind of evaluate that. Next thing you want to do is, what kind of teacher are you? Do you thrive in the structure? Do you kind of go with the flow? Do you want something that is curriculum all in one box? So there's curriculum out there that has it all. You purchase this one thing and it covers all your subjects for the whole year. You're good to go. Or are you a little bit more eclectic where you want to pick and choose which curriculums you use for math and science and reading, kind of put it together yourself? There are lots of choices in that area. What curriculum types did you choose?
Well, last year we started with master books. That was the style we found that when I was at convention I liked. It had Bible study inside of it. It had life skills inside of it. It had the writing, the reading, the math stuff, all the things in one. Those were the two like curriculum books that we got. And then I would say I was eclectic past that. You know, we did a lot of free curriculum things past that for all the other major parts of it.
So you did a little bit of both. A little bit of both.
A little bit of a box. I wanted like the math and the writing where I was unsure of myself to be very structured. And everything else that I felt I could kind of handle for kindergarten that I felt like I could get the library books and those kinds of things a little bit more accessible. That kind of way was a little bit more eclectic. We did a lot of hands-on stuff last year. There was also these homeschool moms books that we got at the convention last year where we got a library book, we read through it, and then there was a invention that we got to build and things like that. So
fun.
He's very engineer style brain. So yeah, he likes that kind of thing.
That's awesome. I am definitely more eclectic. Part of that, I think, is because of having so many kids, and your kid goes into first grade and they're maybe reading at a first grade level, but their math is a third grade level. So they're kind of all over the place. So for me, I found that it was easiest for me to kind of pick and choose each of the subjects individually.
Yeah.
I feel like for us, again, that saved us a little bit of money as well. But that really, it's going to vary from family to family.
Right.
For sure. Awesome. Okay. So you figured out what kind of student you have, and you figured out what your teaching styles are. The next thing we would suggest is put your hands on the curriculum. Don't just go online and see what looks pretty. Find a homeschool convention near you. Go to a used curriculum sale or a resource center in your area. You could even ask a friend for recommendations on what they use and ask to look through it. When you can put your hands on the books and flip through the pages, it just really gives you a much better picture of what your day is going to look like using that.
I actually had a mom in one of my Facebook pages today, actually. It wasn't a homeschooling page. It was just one of our town pages for the city we live in. And she was like, hey, I'm going to start homeschooling. And what curriculum do you guys use? And she wanted it to be Bible-based, and she wanted it to be this and this. And people were giving her recommendations, but nobody was giving her what it checkmarked off. And I was, well, this is the one we use. This is what it checkmarks. And she was like, oh, really? And I was, well, yeah, I'm on these crossroads. If you want to come look at it, come take a peek. And I think that's important because
absolutely,
when I looked through it at convention, that's what really sold me. So I totally agree with that. You really have to put your hands on it.
Yes. If you have a convention that happens near you, it can be overwhelming to walk into that vendor hall.
That first year was overwhelming.
That first year, but I kid you not.
I went home exhausted that first day.
Yes, you will, because there's so many choices. And when you're just kind of searching online, you don't really have a grasp of really how many options there are out there.
How big it is. Yeah,
exactly. So once you get past the shock of it all, you can go through each of those vendors and ask them your questions and flip through the books. It really just puts a whole new perspective on it. So if you can't get to convention because it's the wrong time of year or there's not one close to you, then ask a friend or find a used curriculum resource center.
Or a homeschool group in your area that you're maybe not a part of yet, but you could be. And I'm sure they could help you out.
Absolutely. Yes. Another suggestion that we don't always think about is ask your kids, especially the older ones, for input. What do they want to learn? I have, kids ranging from 14 to 4. And for as long as I can remember, we take a day before school starts where I sit down with each one of them individually and we kind of do a little coffee date. And we just go through, okay, what did they learn last year? What were they successful at? What do they want to learn this year? So it's not just me deciding, hey, you're going to learn X, Y, Z. It's them giving some input into what they're going to learn and what their interests are.
Well,
and
it
then
kind of
they're
goes back
invested.
to what we talked about in the beginning with homeschool. They get to choose what their passions are and kind of learn about those. Your oldest loves horses. So I'm sure she learns a lot about horses when she goes and rides them and takes care of them and all of those things. Corey did the same thing this past week. We're just getting ready to start school in September for us. And I mean, we never really stopped over the summer. It's not good for him to get out of routine. But once we're done with our kindergarten book, we'll start our first grade book. So when that happens, I go, hey, what do you want to learn this year? And we were actually in the car and he asked me, he goes, where do the clouds sit? Like, where are they in the sky? Like, he sees them in the sky and he's like, I don't understand. I was like, they're in the atmosphere. And he's like, the what? And I'm like, hey, do you want to learn about that this year? And he's like, yeah, because science is so random in kindergarten. You don't really talk about those kinds of things. You talk about the sun and the moon, but not like, where does it sit in the sky? And so he's like, yeah, let's learn about, the sun and the moon and the clouds and what did you call it? And I said, the atmosphere.
Cute.
It's like, you have to go through the atmosphere to get to the stars. And he goes, you do? So he's all excited. Understand that I don't necessarily have to get a curriculum book for that. I want you guys to understand that you don't have to have a curriculum book for every single subject.
Everything that you are teaching is their curriculum. So you can choose to purchase curriculum from some company, or you can piece it together yourself. There are so many resources out there that are free. There are websites that offer different classes. There are Pinterest. Pinterest is like a wealth of knowledge and ideas for all those different. You could come up with all kinds of crafts and lessons for the atmosphere. The public library. You can pick a subject, atmosphere, the sky, the clouds. Pick a subject, and
the
you
types
can
of
actually.
clouds.
Did you know that you can request a teacher box from the library?
I did.
Where you say, okay, well, our library, I'm assuming most libraries do the same thing, but our libraries out here, you can say, I would like a teacher box on this subject. And then they take a few days, but they collect a box of like 30 books all on that subject. And then you check out the whole box and you keep it for a month and then you return it.
That's cool.
It's amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what we'll do on
There you
atmosphere.
go. Check it out. See if your city does the same
sky
thing.
And stuff.
Yeah, it's called a teacher box, at least where we live.
Yeah, I'll check our city.
Yeah.
But, I mean, when you do stuff like that with piecing your curriculum together and getting the free resources, that is absolutely acceptable. You just need to make sure you're within your state requirements.
Yes. Let's talk about state requirements for a second. Very good point. So each state is different. Our laws here in Arizona may be different from wherever you are. So you want to make sure that you are familiar with your state requirements. Some states require testing. Some states require attendance. Some states require filling out an affidavit, and that's all you have to do. It really is a broad range of requirements from state to state. So we are actually very blessed here in Arizona. Our laws are very free, thanks to some hardworking people who fought over the past 30 years to keep them that way. So you want to make sure you know what those rules and laws are.
Right. Just to make sure that you stay within those requirements, and that if you do need testing or something with your state, that you are fulfilling that to stay compliant with your state requirements, so that you can continue to homeschool.
Yes. Yes. And to understand the differences in the school options in your state, as it's not just public school and homeschooling. There are quite a few different options in different states. So just be aware of those laws and requirements. Your state organization is going to be a great resource for finding out what those laws are.
Right. And if you don't know if your state has a state organization or whatever. You can Google your state and find one, or you can go to hslda.org.
I believe so.
I think it's org. And you can look up your state from their website and find your state organization from their website. Their website is just a resource to find your state organization. So HSLDA is definitely a helpful place to find that information. It is not the end all, be all, but it is definitely a helpful resource.
Yes. And they are very knowledgeable. If your state doesn't have an active state organization, they would have the answers for you as well as to what your state laws are.
Right. I mean, those are important things though when you're picking curriculum to make sure that you're staying compliant so that you can continue to homeschool freely and that you're doing the things you need to do to teach them the things that they have to have in order for you to keep doing it.
So for example, here in Arizona, as homeschoolers turn in an affidavit when our child turns 6. And then if we're starting from the beginning, or when we start homeschooling, once we have withdrawn our student from whatever other schooling option, then we turn in an affidavit with the state that says we are homeschooling. And with that, we are agreeing to teach the 5 main subjects to our students.
Right. Our state does not require any testing at this time.
Nope.
The only thing that the state does require is once they get into high school, we have to keep grades if we want to send them to college, correct?
Yes. If you are it's not necessarily a requirement from the state. It's not a law. But if your student is college bound, you want to keep those records, even if they're not sure if they're going to go to college. You really want to keep those records of their grades so that you can have a transcript to give their future college for acceptance.
Right. So, I mean, it's not for the state of Arizona per se, but if they wanted to go to a college in the state of Arizona or any state thereof, they had to have a transcript regardless.
Which you create.
Yeah, you create as the homeschool parent. And honestly, homeschool kids are sought out, guys. They are more well-rounded and they're sought out by a lot of colleges nowadays because they're so well-rounded and they're great students because they know how to self-teach. A lot of the times they know how to stay on course. They're teaching. So we digress.
A lot of that, I believe, comes from those moments where they're showing us their interest and they're able to learn and grow from those interests because then they're passionate about it. Right. It's not just, oh, I'm learning this because I have to. It's, oh, I want to learn about the atmosphere and the clouds and the stars and all of that, right? So that passion kind of develops.
Right.
And you can kind of take that as far as you need to.
Right.
Or as they want to.
Right. Which is super exciting. I had no idea he was so excited about clouds. And we were just driving. He's like, yeah, I really want to know about that. And I was like,
that's awesome.
Okay, well, we'll see how far that goes. Like, I really don't know how long this is going to last once he gets into it.
You know what? He will get from it what
he needs to understand.
What he needs to understand. And he will learn and grow from that. And then he'll move on to something else that he's excited about.
Yeah. He's real into cars. Like, I have a feeling that once we get to the point of his life where he could work on a car engine, he would probably do that all day long.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, I really think he would. He loves cars.
Okay. Did I cover everything?
I think we just have a bonus tip from them.
I do have a bonus tip for them. I was kind of waiting to the end. It's like woohoo, here's my...
Yeah, I think we've covered everything else.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then I'm going to give them the bonus tip.
Give it.
Okay. You all, if you look up on Amazon or the library or anywhere that you would get a book from, search Kathy Duffy. She has, and maybe we can post...
I'll see if I can put it in the show notes.
There you go, because I don't remember the actual title. She has a couple books all about... curriculum reviews. So if you factor in all of these things that we talked about today, and then you check out this book, it's amazing. She is incredible with her reviews of different curriculum. So if you can't put your hands on them, this is a really great way to at least understand perspective of what curriculum, what the curriculum you're looking at is like.
Awesome.
So great resource there with Kathy Duffy and her curriculum reviews.
Awesome. All right. Well, I guess really the point is of all of this to say is don't stress about curriculum. Mm-hmm. The learning will come as long as you love on your kiddos and you show them love every single day. They will get what they need.
They will. Absolutely.
They really will. And, talking through when they're not understanding something, pivoting is like the biggest thing with homeschooling. Pivot.
We have the same picture in our head right then. We might be friends, fans.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Christina and I went to the Friends experience together.
Oh, yeah. We should post pictures.
And yes, we should. And we are holding up the pivot couch. It's hilarious. But that's the biggest thing with you can always change curriculum. Can't change families. Guys,
it's true.
So if you're struggling, just change the curriculum, ask for help. Don't be afraid to change it up.
And don't break your bank.
Yeah.
Curriculum does not have to be expensive. It can be. It does get more expensive as they get older.
Right. Because you got different high school subjects and all the things.
But don't break the bank. There are so many resources out there for free curriculum, for used discounted curriculum. Don't break the bank. You can homeschool without spending a ton of money.
Yeah, for sure. And that's, where it comes into play too, being smart about finding your resource center. Most cities have them, have resource centers, or, getting yourself plugged in with a homeschool group will definitely, a homeschool group or a co-op or something, where they can get you that information each year is definitely going to be helpful.
Absolutely. There's also, Gail mentioned HSLDA earlier. They have a group called Compassion. So the Compassion group here in Arizona does a used curriculum sale.
They did that
every
over the summer.
Year. And it's amazing. And you get discounted curriculum. It's used, but it's in great shape.
It is.
And then the money.
I got some awesome games.
Yeah.
And like flashcards and stuff.
Yeah. And then that money actually goes to bless struggling homeschoolers. So that is a great resource. And if they have it here, it's through HSLDA. So
which is nationwide.
There are many other states that have something like that as well. So definitely check that out in your area.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, as I say every single week, we are here for you every Wednesday, you guys. We are so blessed to have you guys joining the community, more and more of you every single week. And we are so excited to continue to bring these resources and this information to you guys. We are just so grateful that the Lord has put us in a place where we can share this with you guys, and that we have been on this journey. Christina obviously is the veteran and longer and has this experience to share with us. And I'm super excited that I get to be along for the ride on the homeschool part of it.
Don't let her fool you. She does all the hard stuff.
So I'm super excited that we get to do all these things with you guys. So thank you again for joining us. Make sure to subscribe and like the podcast so that we can continue to make sure it gets to all of the right people. Write a review for us if you found value in this today. Make sure to join us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok if you want to be a part of our community. We try and share tips and tricks and all of the things, fun stuff too, guys. We like to have a real good time around here. So make sure you are a part of it. And we're just so grateful for all of you guys. Christina's going to close us out today in prayer.
Okay, guys. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for bringing these ladies to listen, help us to be a blessing to them, help us to be a resource that they can use. Thank you for the freedom that we have to homeschool. Thank you for the resources that are out there. Thank you so much for just giving us what we need to teach our kids and help us to have the confidence that we can do it, because it is what you are asking us to do. And just thank you for everything you've blessed us with. Pray this in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Hey, bestie.